I remember walking into this special needs home for children who had been abandoned by their families, right? All kids who were left there pretty much just to die for the rest of their lives. And the first thing that hit me was the stench. I don't know if you remember that, right? The kids were just lying in their crap. So many of them were running around naked. Nobody to care for them. Lice all over their bodies. They hadn't had baths in weeks. And in the midst of all of that, when we went to volunteer there for the first time, I remember walking in and meeting this kid called Unda. And he had a hydrocephaly, slightly enlarged head. And with the limited amount of Kannada I had and what he could speak, we spent 2 hours just connecting. And there was this magic moment where we built a handshake. And then every week when we would go back to volunteer and spend time with the kids, I would spend time with him. Then we built more handshakes. And then it grew just then from there. It wasn't just Unda, it was Venki, the kid who, for him, he was the next Bollywood star. For Prakash, who would come and shake your hand before you could even see him anywhere. And there was this almost magic would happen, not for the kids, but for us. And for me, it completely changed who I was. It changed how I saw life. It changed what I wanted to do with my life. It gave me purpose at my low point of my life.
Yeah.
And volunteering that way is so powerful. And it grew from that moment of volunteering 2 hours a week to starting you and I to full-time having staff working in those homes with those special needs kids.
Yes.
And actually transforming their lives and multiple homes across Karnataka. There's so much power in volunteering. I think sometimes it's good for us to recognize and talk about that.
Very, very true. I love what you shared and how volunteering is so powerful. Everything you share, it all started with we saying, okay, let's go spend 2 hours with these children. And it was as simple as that. There wasn't a long agenda to change the world. It's just we as humans saying, hey, can I go and contribute in a small way? That is what makes volunteering totally opposite to everything else in life in some way. Because when you look at life, it's totally optimized to think about our own well-being. 20 years of schooling has taught us to kind of how can I stay ahead, how can I come first, how can I put myself first rather. We are wired to ask, what can I get out of this? Volunteering, on the other hand, it's about thinking about others, to kind of exercise a very different muscle called empathy. Rewiring sort of in some way our mind to help somebody with no strings attached. And that's a beautiful part. And I think all of us should create a space in our life where we are doing that. Debbie Husky says this, right? What she calls mirror benefits to volunteering. If I could have $1 for every time a volunteer has told me that they have gained more than they have given,
100%.
I would be a billionaire by now. Volunteering is one place where the meaning, the purpose, growth converge with social good. And that is what makes it so unique.
Absolutely, right? And today in India, if you see where India is, corporate India is booming, there is so much potential there for this huge workforce who maybe for the first generation have way more than we need for us to give back to society. Because if you think of it, even if just every employee in corporate India was to give a few hours a month, forget a weekly volunteering, they would give over 150 million hours. That is just a ridiculous number, right? Imagine that many hours going back into serving the community, doing something good, cleaning up the streets. And it's such a good trend that we're seeing today, right? 78% of the top 100 companies do mention that, hey, we're now adding volunteering to their CSR work. Because for a lot of companies today, volunteering is not just philanthropy, it's not just charity, it's not just giving back, it's also smart, it's strategic move they're making and they should be making, right?
Absolutely. There's a total business case for it. Right?
Yeah.
So
96% of companies actually find employees who volunteer much more engaged at work. So it's connecting you with the company, with the cause, with each other. It helps with employee engagement, with retention. When an employee volunteers, about 93% of them actually report them being happy with their employer.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer almost, right? They say 52% less employee turnover when somebody volunteers with the organization and through the organization, because it builds not just connection with the employer, it also builds connection with teammates.
Very true.
When we go out, we have a shared experience, we have a shared purpose. Volunteering is what connected us. We started volunteering together and that was the root of the journey. Barclays even did this study. It's employee volunteers and a majority of them actually talked about how volunteering improved their teamwork, their communication, their working together, which was very interesting. We've got companies that you and I work with who we organize corporate volunteering programs for, where they even do overnight, going to a school, painting it for 2 days. And that really brings that team together. They come back transformed. And it changes what you think of a company. Right. When you see their employees going into the community thinks of those employees in that company differently also. It changes those.
Very true.
Yeah, and there's so many good examples in India. Tata has their Pro Engage, which not just the employees, their families, alum, all of it. Cognizant is just this, they have built massive movement. And today you can actually see from the original Cognizant team, so many of their CSR members are now spread across the entire industry.
Amazing.
Running volunteering initiatives in other companies.
I love what you shared. There's a business case and there are so many benefits to volunteering.
Yeah.
One thing that I personally like talking about is what I call social fulfillment gap. The simple mantra is this: when you think about companies, their most important asset is talent, no matter what company they are. And one simple thing is the more fulfilled your talent is, the longer you're going to stay with them and more engaged they're going to be, as you already mentioned.
Yeah.
And when you think about fulfillment, there are different boxes that we tick in ourselves, right? There is the whole purpose. Do I find what I do purposeful?
Yeah.
Do I really enjoy it? And then there's a box of growth and achievement. Am I growing? Am I achieving? And then there is obviously the financial one. Are my financial needs met? Am I able to support myself, my family? Companies really think about this, and they're very thoughtful about how do I make work purposeful? How do I show that tangible growth? And how do I obviously financially compensate them so that they stay longer? But I feel like there's a fourth dimension, especially when you live in India, which is social fulfillment. Because we live in our comfort zones, but when we go out, we see a very different world where there are so many needs. And when I don't respond to those needs, there is a part of me which is not fulfilled. It leaves that gap. And smart companies understand that. And volunteering can fill that gap. And smart companies use volunteering program to fill that fulfillment gap, which makes employees stay longer and feel more engaged.
I love that, right? You want to be able to build sort of a system or a program in a company that's enabling people to give back.
Absolutely.
I think one thing we've seen over the last maybe 5-6 years is this huge move towards corporate volunteering. There are 4 things every company should be doing if they want to run really good corporate volunteering programs, because it needs to move past just the put a t-shirt on with the company logo, get a photo op, right? We're moving beyond that now. I think the first thing companies need to do is good leadership buy-in and build in structures and policies that enable volunteering, whether it's time off, whether it's making space for it, working with managers, flexi time. There are so many different policies, right? I know companies give paid leave to employees to actually go do this. Leadership has to walk the talk. If the leaders aren't volunteering, then it's just doing it for the sake of it. It needs to be culture within the organization, but culture is enabled by someone leading the way and then someone creating a space for it. Those are 2 things we've really seen. The second thing we've seen good companies that really are able to create strong volunteering programs is offer people options, right? Obviously at UNI, you've got the standard one, just come and teach a child. But I think over the last sort of few years, we've built 80 different volunteering options, because not everyone's passionate about education. Some are passionate about the environment, some are passionate about lake cleanup, some are passionate about an animal shelter nearby. And you want people to find space to express that passion for that cause within your organization.
Yep.
And then when you build out a calendar for the year, teams can plan towards it, right? Hey, you know what? We've got World Volunteering Day coming up in December. We've got XYZ happening through the year. There are so many moments to create volunteering that align with even just the season your company is in and also what's happening in the world around us.
Yeah.
So those are 2 ways. And you want to work with an organization. I think a lot of times when we look at volunteering within companies, they try to hack it. One of the key things I've seen companies do well when you want to do it with a large number of volunteers is partner with credible organizations. There's so many organizations now, UNI, Bhumi, Goodera, so many organizations doing quality volunteering with companies. And I think leverage that. You've got experts in the room who can create this great experience, not just for the volunteer, but also on ground. You don't want it to feel like it's tokenism. So good partners, better experience, higher volunteer retention. That's the third thing. And the fourth one, maybe you could talk about a bit, is just how do you train your volunteers and how do you build a community of volunteers within an organization?
That's a really important one, right? Because I think one of the things that volunteering does is it builds a community around it within the companies. People who enjoy volunteering come together, and then they really enjoy hanging out together. And to be able to capitalize on that, it's very critical. We have seen corporate volunteers go from, hey, I just want to do it once, to, hey, I want to come back and do it again. And then they really take the journey of where volunteering becomes part of their identity. And they come back and say, I just don't want to come and sort of volunteer. Can I help you all organize?
Champion.
Right? Yeah, and they really become champions of it. I think for corporates to think through the journey and not just you treat your employees as the consumers, but the creators. Create space where they're able to co-create programs with you, they're able to shape the events and contribute. And as a company, thinking through that is extremely important.
Nice. Yeah, and if you are looking to volunteer, we'd love to partner with you and build these out. It's an exciting season we're in, and I think for us, every single month we're looking at new opportunities, new ways to volunteer. Because you need to look at volunteering not as an expense. You need to look at it as an investment. You're investing into your company's culture, you're investing into the society around you, and you're investing into the people that work in your organization. Because if you design it well, everybody wins.